All right, I did want to mention, this is the page we were just on, the NPM page, that if you go after where it says example, they've got a thing here that says try EJS online. I'm not saying you have to go there, but the point is they show you an example of how it's used. So what I want to show you here is this is all JavaScript code. So it has to be surrounded in those tags. All right. And you can see that when you start to take a look in here, some of it's JavaScript and some of it's not. So notice there's an ending tag right there because this is not JavaScript. That's not even HTML. That's just random text, right? Well, you could have made it a paragraph or whatever, all right? But I just wanted you to see that there are resources out there that you can look at to see how to use this stuff, all right? Okay. So I believe that right before the break, then we did that. Yeah, we did the install. So, all right. So let's go back to here. And we've added these things. But what we want to be able to do, let me close this node folder that's here because the project isn't that big. All right. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to start writing some HTML files. All right. Now, the files that we write are going to be one of two things. They're either going to be static, which means they're never basically going to change, all right, or they're going to be dynamic, which means that we have to be able to bring in JavaScript and other types of things. All right. So I'm going to show you the way that this is typically done. All right. So we're using embedded JavaScript, or we're about to use embedded JavaScript. The system doesn't know that yet. Even though we added that package, it doesn't know it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here, right there, and we're going to, an empty area here, I'm going to right mouse click and choose new file, or new folder rather, or again, you can click up there and choose new folder, whatever you'd rather, it doesn't matter. But you want that folder to be at the top level, not in the node modules, etc. All right, and we're going to call this, you can actually call it anything you want, but historically, it's called views. It just is. I can't give you a great reason for that other than it just is. All right. Now, we brought in our Express middleware. We instantiated it. We set up our port. But I'm going to add back, if you remember from yesterday, I'm going to say bring in path middleware, like we did yesterday. So const path equals require path, just like we did yesterday. All right, there's nothing different from what we did yesterday. But now what we want to do is we want to tell the system that what we want to do is we want to use embedded JavaScript as what's called our view engine. That's why it's typically called views for the folder, because it's a view engine. All right. So I'm going to come in here, and right under that add express middleware form encoding, I could do it above it, I could do it below it. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to add it here. Set EJS view engine info. Again, it doesn't matter what you put in here. But it's not app.use, it's app.set. So we have to tell it that the view engine, whoops, I had to spell it right. The view engine that we're going to use is EJS. So it's actually done over 2 lines. So that's one of them. And we have to set our views folder is going to be on path.join _ dir name views. I'll let you put that in, and when you're done, we'll go over all of it. All right, so I just added the comment on line 16, and I added lines 17 and 18. That's correct to me. Everybody got that? Okay. The first line, line 17 there, as you'd probably guess, it's letting the system know the engine that we're using to be able to create the equivalent of HTML files in here is EJS, or Embedded JavaScript. Now, the question is, could we have gotten this to work without using it? The answer is yes. But then they would have had to have been straight HTML files that we could never add anything dynamic to them. We don't want that. All right. Then the next line says, hey, we've got a views folder, and it's under our main thing. This is node 2, and underneath that, it's in a folder called views, which is this one, right? All right. So I'm going to right mouse click on here, and I'm going to choose new file. I want to make sure it's under your views folder. And I'm going to just call it, you can call it almost anything, but I'm going to call it index dot, here's the key thing, EJS, Embedded JavaScript. All right. And, well, as we've often done, hit the exclamation point, hit tab. And we'll call this home. And I'm going to do two things. I'll put an H1 tag in here that says homepage. And I'm just going to put in a paragraph with some stuff because I don't want it to look exactly like it did before. So I'm going to put a paragraph in here. We'll put in lorem 30 and tab. So I've got that. Nothing magical at all about what I'm putting in here. All right. But what I want you to understand is, so far it's just an HTML page, but we saved it with a different extension. All right. We saved it with that extension. All right. So, yes. All right. Now, nothing magical is going to happen when we run this because hopefully you've started to be kind of thinking this mentality, but we've got to go back to our app.js because remember, when we go to the home page, this is what we're doing, correct? Well, we're going to put this stuff in just a minute, but for now, we don't want to remove this because if you get rid of it, you got to type it in all over again. But let's comment all of this out. So I'm in our app.js file, and I'm just going to comment this out, okay? Because we're going to end up putting it in the other file in just a couple minutes. All right. Now, if you remember from yesterday, now we should be able to say res.render index. All right, and I didn't go far enough with this. Hold on a second. Hold on. This has got to, the whole thing has got to be commented out here. So this whole thing, so I didn't have that line commented. So res.render index. Now, if we did it right, I'm going to save. If we did it right and we go back now to our home page, we should now have in our home page, instead of having it just say welcome to the home page and have that other stuff that was in there with the form, it should have this is what should be in there right here. All right. So I'm going to go back to here and to here and to here, and I'm going to refresh. And of course, nothing happened. Let's try it again. You are kidding me, because it is correct. So let's see, app.get.
I got mine to work. I just we did a Control-C and then.
Oh, you're right. I probably have to stop the server and start it again. I don't have the server running. Well, that would actually help, wouldn't it? So let's clear. Start it up again. Okay. Usually, if you're going to have a major problem, it's going to break here. You're actually going to get an error right here, just so you know that. Because it's trying to bring the server up, and it won't be able to do that. So there it is. All right. Thanks for bringing that up. Now, mine's bigger, of course, because I made it bigger, etc. But, and all that's fine. You know, it's fine. But it's still, right now, it still isn't doing a whole heck of a lot, right? So now what we should be able to do is this. All right, if you'd follow along, please. That is, I'm going to go back to my index page. I'm going to grab all of this. We're not going to need all of it, but it's okay. I'm going to grab every bit of it that's in there now. And I'm going to cut it. Control X, which made this a lot smaller, as you can see. All right. Then I'm going to go back to my index.jes file. And I really don't need this paragraph. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but it's not really doing anything. I just did it so it would stand out. And I'm going to paste this in. Now, we're going to change some stuff around. Did you hear me? So first of all, I don't need the res.send, and I don't need the welcome to the home page, because I've already got an H1 there that says home page. So I don't need either of those. All right. But I should be able to just leave this all here. Let's see. And get rid of all this as well. All right. Questions? And submit your answer is kind of a big name for a button. I'm just going to change that to just submit. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back in my app.js page. I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to go back and see and refresh. Okay? Now, let's see if it works. Blue. All right. Now, you might not think of it, but that's one of the most important things that you've done since you've been going to school here. Because what we were able to do was we were able to communicate between a server and a client. All right. We were able to send information from a client, blue, over to the server, and the server was able to come back and tell us that what we put in was correct. All right. And again, if I come back in here and say orange and click submit, you're incorrect, please try again. All right. So my big question to you is what we're doing, does it make sense? All right. And we're going to just keep doing a lot of projects. I'm just telling you that right now. We're going to keep doing projects and projects and projects. All right. So let's go back to our index.js file. All right. And I want to show you that when you call the home page like this, when you call this, all right, and you render it like this, you can pass it information. Remember, parameters, right? But the parameters that we put in, if not all the time, then virtually all the time, are going to be JSON. All right, so I'm going to come in here, and after res.render index, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to put a comma in, then a beginning curly brace, and then I'm going to hit enter so that the ending curly brace is on a new line. And I'm going to pass it some information. All right. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to call this is daylight, and I'm going to set it to true. Okay. And then I'm going to have another one, where I'm going to there's nothing magical about what I'm doing here. I'm just going to call this users. No, yeah, that's fine. Users, and we're going to have an array, and we'll have 4 users in here. And we'll have name, Gabriel, email, and these aren't real emails, you'll know that, but I'm just going to put gb@gmail.com. All right, and I'm going to copy that, make one for each of you. So I'm going to copy this right here, like that, and next we will have Christopher, and I'll put cg@gmail.com, then Aaron, and that'll be am@gmail.com, and finally Angie add as, not gas, sorry, as. Okay, no, won't let me, there we go. All right. So what we have here, what we're attempting to do, is to create a couple variables. Is daylight is a Boolean variable. All right. And the other is an array of objects. The name of the array is users. Each object has a name. We could have put the whole name in. We could have made a first name and a last name. Try to keep it simple. So each user has a name and an email. Okay? So what I'm saying is right now we are attempting at least to pass that information that you see right there. We're attempting to pass that. We're going to attempt to pass that when we, to our page. Does that make sense? All right. So let's save. Now I'm not going to run it yet. I'm going to go back to the page here. All right. And after our form, I'm just going to put in like about 3 line breaks. All right. And then you may or may not remember this, but I want you to get used to printing out some EJS, some embedded JavaScript. All we want to do is print out the value of is raining. So if it works, it should be true. Or is daylight, whatever the heck we called it. What did we call that? Is daylight. Oops. If I did that correctly, what should print out after our form is true. Does that make sense? So I'm going to save this. I think I saved my other file, but just in case, I'm going to save that. All right. And I'm going to go back to here and to there and refresh. And there's true. Now, again, you might say, it's a big deal because we're able to pass information in. In this case, we're passing it from the server to the client. We're always used to doing it in the other direction, and we still can do that. All right. So that's one thing. And let's come in and let's print out all the users' information. In fact, before we even do that, let's say if we set is daylight to true, we'll print out it is daylight, else we'll print out it's not. Make sense? All right. So go back, if you would please, go back into your index.js page. All right. I'm sorry, your home.ejs, your index.ejs page right here. Now, we already saw this and you saw it was true. It's totally fine to do that. But we want to put a little bit of logic in here. So we're going to do this. If is daylight, you already know it is. All right. Now, we're putting a curly brace in here, but now, don't worry, it'll work in just a second, okay? We want to, oh my gosh. That should be this, there. And this should look like this, all right? Now, that is JavaScript. I'm not asking you, that's JavaScript. You've written stuff like that before, but what we want to do is if it's raining, we just want to put in a paragraph tag if it's daylight rather, we want to say it is daylight. All right? That's not JavaScript. So look on the screen, please. We told it to start JavaScript. We wrote our JavaScript. We told it to stop JavaScript. Does that make sense? All right. Now we want to start JavaScript up again. So guess what? We've got to put those tags in again. So we got to put in the tag. And now I'm going to say in my curly, and say else and begin another curly, but I again have to go in and end. All right. And now I'm going to just copy this paragraph because I'm just going to say it is not daylight. So it is not daylight. All right. And I've got to come in and again on this one line with just a curly, I've got to put in my start and my end. Now I know it looks a little bit weird, all right, and not to worry you or anything, but when we get to using handlebars, instead of using this notation here, you use 2 or 3 sets of curly braces, all right? That's just another way of doing the same thing. Now, I'm going to do a file save, and I'm going to go back. And again, I'm going to refresh. It is daylight. Why is it daylight? Why?
Because we set it.
Because we set it to true. So let's go back up here, and where we set it in our app.js, let's change it to false. Save, go back to here, and refresh. It is not daylight. All right? And again, I do realize, believe me, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if that was me, I'm thinking, this isn't very exciting stuff. And that's only because it isn't very exciting stuff. But you're learning how to do the basics right now. That's all. All right? Now, we're going to do one more thing here. We're going to go in, we're going to print out our list of users. Okay? So, let's go back here into our index.ejs file. We'll put in a couple line breaks. All right. And now we're going to print that out. It's not going to look super different from what we just did. Okay, but I'm going to have it do it like this. So I'll write the whole thing in here. I think we called it users. Dot for each user all right, so guess what we're doing here? Well, we're stopping our JavaScript. Okay? Now, we're going to just do an LI. I know you say we don't have a list. We don't even need one. We can just put LI. We're going to put a list item in here. Okay? But inside of that list item, we want to put in some information. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to put in equal, because we're just outputting it. So users dot, I don't remember what they were called, name and email. Users dot name, and then we're going to end this, and we're going to put in a hyphen, and then we will start it up again. And we're going to say users dot email. And then we've got to end it again. All right. And then on this line here, we've got to start it. And when we get done, we've got to end it. Just like that. I'll give you a second to type that in. Make sure you save when you get done. Now, I don't think I missed anything. I would never try to miss anything, but we'll see if I made any mistakes or not. So I'm going to come back to here and refresh. And I did screw something up. All right, so let's figure out what we screwed up, or I screwed up. So, oh, I know what it is. It's user. not users in here, it's user.name. Remember, it's each individual one. All right, this is the entire collection, but we want to print out one at a time. That's what the problem was. So save it, come back, refresh, and there it is. Now, it's not formatted. You know, I don't care really, but I'm just, you know, and the syntax is kind of loopy, for lack of better words, but is what we're doing makes sense? That's the key thing. And if it does, great. All right. If it doesn't, you can go back and watch this without sound, evidently. So, it's not going to help Gabriel real much, I guess. But okay. Now, wouldn't it be kind of nice if we wanted to be able to come in and, for example, in this file that's right here, wouldn't it be nice to be able to come in here and do this, to say link, and say something like, I don't know, CSS/styles.css. We don't have any CSS right now, but we're going to see if we can put some in. Okay? Now, just so you know, and it's going to look a little funny maybe, but look on the screen, please, because what we're about, you do need right there to make sure it starts at the root, so you need to put a slash at the beginning. All right? Now, when you start to create static stuff, CSS is static. All right, it is, whether you realize it or not. Most HTML files are static. You don't put it inside of this views folder. All right, you put it in its own folder. So I'm going to come back in here, and again in here, I'm going to again right mouse click and choose new folder, and you call this one public. All right. So what would you put in here? I'm going to tell you quickly what you typically would put in here. Very similar to what we put into our files. You'd probably have a CSS folder. You'd put in your static HTML, and you might even have a JS folder. But that's JavaScript for the client, not for the server. We're writing JavaScript right now for the server. All right. So we're going to come into here. We're going to right mouse click on this, on our public, and I'm going to do another new folder, and I'm going to make folder CSS. All right, and I don't like what it did. It didn't look like it worked right to me, but let me get rid of this and redo it. So public, there's public. I don't know why it's doing that. So rename. I don't know what it's doing there. So I'm going to get rid of this. Come on, delete it.
Pretty sure it's because it's the only thing in the.
That might be. But I'm going to come in here and again put in public. All right, and that should have been a folder, not a file. So let me get rid of it. Yep. New folder, public. All right, get my down arrow there, new folder again, CSS. And I think you're right. I think it was okay to begin with. But we'll find out right now. So in the CSS here, all right, if I want to be sure, I can always back out to here. And there's public, and there's CSS. So it did work. All right. So inside of here, now I want a file, and that'll be my styles.css. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do anything earth-shattering in here. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just say, let's just take our H1 tags, and I don't know what that. H1 tags, and let's just go in and color purple. You don't like that? Use your own color. Doesn't matter. I just want to see if this works more than anything else. Okay, so if this works in just a minute when we apply it, that's what should happen. We could have changed the body color. We could have done anything. It doesn't matter. All right, so what I want to do next is I want to go back into my EJS file like we were, link rel equals style sheet, href equals /CSS /styles.css. I think it's correct. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save. I'm going to go back to my styles.css and do a file, save. Then I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to refresh. And it didn't change. All right. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but I'm going to double check anyway. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to change all of the text. So I'm going to just say body here, color purple, and try to change everything. But I want to double check here. So let's see. Node 2, public, CSS, styles. That does look fine to me. Body, color purple. That looks right to me. Because I did all these before, and of course they work. But that's okay. We're going to get it to work anyway.
On the link, do we need to put the public folder in?
No. Question was, when you go to the link here, all right, was in here, do we need to put public in there? No. This says start at the root, basically. Then it knows the root for that is public. So it's saying to go to CSS and then go to styles.css. Now, when I did this before and it worked, I didn't put the CSS into its own directory. See what I'm saying? So I had it hanging right from here. So it was literally right underneath there. I don't know if that's a problem or not. I don't think it is, though. So let's see. Because this was really the last thing that I wanted to do today. Yeah, that's everything. So let's see if we can figure this out. I mean, it should not be this. Unless, let's see, I'm gonna put it like this, all right? And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just take what's in my public folder, that styles.css, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it right here. You understand what I just did? I just made a copy of it and I put it right under public. All right. And let's see if that makes it purple. It still isn't. Well, if I right mouse click, is it giving me any errors? I don't want to view page source. Inspect console. Refuse to apply style because its MIME type is not supported. Style sheet in strict MIME checking is enabled because it's MIME type text.html. I did not have to change that before. Well, what it's saying is this. And let's see if this fixes it. I don't know if it will or not. But you used to have to put in here type equals text/CSS like that. All right. Now, I wouldn't put it in if I were you because I don't know if it's going to work or not. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to close this and refresh. Still was not working. We're going to get it to work. I'm not at all worried about that. It's interesting because it worked fine before. I did not get any error. So I'm going to grab the error. Oh, I bet you let's see. Okay, we left off a line. It's on me, as it always is. So we find out that line and we'll put it in, and then it should work. Yeah, we don't have it in. Under your app.set line here, I'm going to put in here, add reference to static folder, which is public. Okay, it doesn't know where to look for it. So this is app.use express.static path.join __ dir name public. And again, what that is doing is it's saying we have a static directory. What else would we put in there? Well, we could try adding an image, for example, to our page. Does that make sense? All right, and we've got a couple minutes so we can try that. So I'm going to do a file save. I'll come right back to it if you're still typing. Don't worry about it. Still ain't purple. Well, I'll have to go back and check because I just took my notes here, but let's see.
It has something at the bottom, the app crashed. And at the top it requires a middleware function, but
okay, I'll tell you what it is. Okay, ready? Do this. Express.static path.join. Don't worry, that'll be fixed in a minute. And then put this. No quotes there. There we go. It's purple. All right, so this is the correct line. And you had a wrong syntax, Christopher, because I gave you a wrong syntax, and that's why it blew up. Okay? And again, you can use either single quotes there or double quotes. Okay? We're going to do one last thing. We got 8 minutes, so we should be able to do this. Did you get yours to work? Yours work? Yours work? You're good. All right. One more thing. Let's come back in here. I'm going to do it from out here just because I don't like working and creating folders inside of Visual Studio Code. I just don't like it. All right. So I'm going to make a folder in here, and I'm going to call it images. Okay. Then I'm going to go out to, what do we got? It's the sky. So I'm going to come out here. I'm going to go out to images.google.com. And it was daylight, right? So that, I don't know what I've got up here, but try it again. Images.google.com. And I'm going to just type in daylight. All right, that's a nice one. This first one that comes up looks good to me. So I'm going to right mouse click on it, save image as, make sure you save it into the right place. So desktop, node 2, public, images. Okay, and I'm going to just call it daylight.jpg. All right. And then we've got to put it into our EJS file. You already know how to add an image. There's nothing new there. All right, for any of you. So with after our form, let's put it right at the top of the body. It doesn't matter. But img source equal, again, this will be /images/ if I did it right, daylight.jpg alt equals daylight. I don't know. Now, I'm not going to worry if it doesn't come up. Then I screwed up with something, but I'm not going to worry about it. So save. this stuff open here. I'm just closing a few things. Okay, it doesn't like it, so it's going to give me the same error. We'll see. View page source. View page source. Inspect. Console. It's not giving me any errors. Well, that's a good thing. Now, remember though, when we did this, we moved it right there. I couldn't get it to work from a directory, so let's see if I move that up if it works. And I'll have to look at that before tomorrow. So, views. Public images. I'm going to grab that image, copy it to the clipboard, and I'm going to move it up a level. So I'm making a copy of it here. So paste like that. So I now have it there. And put it here without the slash images. Just slash daylight. All right. There it is. All right, I'll have to look and see why there's a problem with the pathing. But as far as I can tell, most everything else worked. All right. So tomorrow we'll do it the same way. I'll give you till 1:45, and then we're going to build something totally different from scratch that's going to try to incorporate everything that we've done so far. Okay? If you want to close it up and take off, it's 3:52 I got, so, or 51, but still. I hope it's making at least a little bit of sense, even through my screw-ups.